all for being here, and we thank the wonderful ceremony from our big sisters. And so now we will proceed with and it's a program order of service, but it's free flowing. Anyone, anybody that knew Harriet or whatever, can come and say whatever you wanted to say. That's what she wanted. Now she wrote her program back in 2012, way before Pat died. Pat died in 2013. So she had her own, so every year she would restructure her how this particular service. So we thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. And so one of her mentors and students is the Honorable Gary Bledsoe, the state president of the NAACP. So, according to my instructions, I have asked him to be whatever master ceremony, whatever he needs to do to come forward and carry on this program. And then I will be trying to advise him who, and anyone who wants to speak, as this program just in order to get anybody involved. And so I just left Judge Yvonne Williams' office to let her know that because her name was not in the program, she was a special friend, and she's welcome to say, and she's going to come and say whatever she wants to say. And but Gary, come forward, my brother, and relieve me of this opportunity. Crush it. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give it to him, so I don't even. I said it. Oh, I'm gonna pray. Oh, okay. Is this over? Oh. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your holy and divine name. We come, Heavenly Father, in the humblest way we know how, praising you and thanking you for each and every blessing that you have bestowed upon us. And we thank you for each and every answered prayer. But we come this evening praising you and thanking you for the life of Harriet Louise Mitchell Murphy and the influence and love she's had on each and every one of us. We pray that her legacy and what she's contributed to this community and this country and the world will forever be remembered. We ask you now to join us as we celebrate, recognize her. So bless this service, and we thank you for each and every blessing. And we look forward to praising you and honoring you. And one day, we're going to join her in that great throne room of heaven. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for all that you've done for our good friend, Judge Murphy, and all in the years that she was allowed to be here with us. Let me start out saying I'm very honored to be here with all of you this evening, because Judge Murphy was indeed a wonder to know and a wonder to be around. She was a mentor of mine. When I first got out of law school, she was the first black lawyer that I met. She took me under her wings and taught me so much, and I owe her so much in my life. I became part of her and her family's life and cherish those days greatly. I would like to say, though, that I would like to do is to allow you to see maybe Judge Murphy and in my eyes in some ways, because I think that's really kind of important. You know, one of the things that I've seen her do, I've seen her in a number of different capacities. I've seen her down at the legislature testifying on bills. I've been in hostile meetings involving jury trials with her. I've been in meetings where we're trying to make a difference and change things. And one of the things that I think we all know, and all of us who love her would recall, she had this way of saying what needs to be said, but saying it with that beautiful smile on her face to kind of diminish the defenses so that people can engage in conversation and bring about some real changes or discussions that might help the lives of people. When we look at Judge Murphy and see where she was born and see where she was raised and see the things that she encountered in her life, we can see what really made her into the great person that she made, that meant so much to the Austin community. Let's think about it for a second now. She's in the same school as Martin Luther King Jr., and then she knows him as ML, and she becomes his friend. And she's there in Atlanta, which I think many of you know was kind of in many ways a mecca for black folks in some ways, though the country wasn't kind to us during that time period. But back then, you saw the business ascendancy and the partnership between the black community and the Jewish community, and the things that were happening in Atlanta that weren't happening elsewhere. And she kind of had that light that was brought to her by her experiences at that time. And so she ended up attending Spelman, which I think those who don't know is kind of like the Black Female Virgin of Harvard. It's an outstanding institution, and not everyone gets to go to Spelman. And so when you are able to get into Spelman and to do well at Spelman, that says a lot about you and your abilities. But she went on to Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta University. And then she did some things that were really kind of intriguing that I think really helped develop the character that she has. She went to and became a Texan, lived in Long Beach, taught school in Long Beach, Texas. And many of you know East Texas. I mean, Bill can tell you, Bill grew up in Lufkin. So that's an area where you have to turn back our clock by about 50 years to understand where people are. And that's even today. It's a different world out there. And she was able to, in her experiences, to see things firsthand about how they were in Texas and the problems of people being locked out of power. And she also had the pleasure of being able to get acquainted with Thurgood Marshall and others. I mean, one of the things I used to teach a course on Thurgood Marshall and his jurisprudence, and I cited her heavily because of all of her experiences and things she could tell me about Thurgood and the different cases that he tried in Texas. So she indeed has a great legacy, and indeed is someone that has really lived a great life. You know, Martin Luther King gave that famous speech where he said, you know, like everyone, I would like to live a long life, but really when you look at it, it's not really the length of life, but really the breadth of life that is the most significant. Well, I think with Judge Murphy, she had both the breadth of life and the length of life. And so I think she was really blessed in that regard, and to have so many loved ones. I know how much she loved her family, and I was kind of like an unofficial big brother to Charles, and I would always do things and take him out and do things to him see a different part of the world. So I think that when we look at Judge Murphy, and I'll fast forward. I'm not supposed to talk too much, but I want to say a couple more things that I think are really okay. Thank you. A couple that I think that are really important. You know, she went to the University of Texas in 1966, and one of the things I did is years ago I went back and looked at what's called the Peregrinus. It's the annual for the law school. And I looked up the year 1966. And there was one black person and 4 females in the book. So you might imagine how that was. And what Bill can tell you is that the folklore at the law school, more than folklore, But then there were a number of students now Judge Murphy wouldn't say this, but there were some faculty members who didn't really like to see people of color. I know when I went, Bill took me to the side and said, don't you take this professor? Don't you take that professor? Because they will fail you, okay? But she was able to go there and to come out loving the university despite the experiences that she has. It just shows the ability that she has to reach out and to be part of the lives of different people. You know, she's perfectly comfortable in the boardroom at the law school with some of the most powerful people in the state. At the same time, I've seen her interact hundreds of times with people who had nothing, who were some who would be invisible to many people that had power. When she tried to uplift them, she treated them with sincerity, with decency and respect. And so that shows really the kind of individual that she was. But you look at the awards that she has received, I think they say a lot about her and the work that she's done. Maybe a couple of stories that maybe people don't know about her because she was soft-spoken in some ways. But for example, when you're the first black to be appointed to a judgeship in Texas, that permanently, there may have been persons that got temporary appointments in other places. Now, I counted on my hand 4 black lawyers in Austin at the time that she graduated from law school and passed the bar. And that's not a whole lot of black lawyers. And so after that, she became a municipal judge within 4 years. And we put this in perspective to understand what was going on in Austin. 2 years before that, we had riots at McCallum High School attempting to desegregate. We had the election of the first black of the city council after all those years. We had not actually had representation. So she was really a trendsetter in terms of actually paving the way and taking that position at that time. And when she took that position, she cared about everybody. She implemented some things that maybe people don't know about. For example, she brought forward what's called a teen court program. She wanted to stop young people from being able to be targeted, to have criminal convictions on their record. So she created a program to allow people to come and to do community work and things like that and have their criminal records washed away. Because she didn't want them to be hindered in life because particularly there are particular problems, especially for people of color in life anyway, and she didn't want to see them saddled with criminal convictions. Another thing I think that she did was when police testified in her court, they had to tell the truth, just like other people had to tell the truth. And so she was known for not following through and just doing what people wanted. And she was so vigilant that the police went many times to try to get her not reappointed by the city. But she continued to do what she needed to. She was taking risks of her own personal career because she didn't want people just to say, because you have on a blue uniform, you come in here and you can say anything, now convict this person and ruin their life. That was not who she was. And so she actually put her own professional career at stake in terms of how she handled that. Now, Judge Murphy also did great things in the community. I know when I first got out of law school, she said, look, we don't have organized people in politics. We don't have an urban league here. We don't have a black lawyers group here. She was a founding member of all those groups, and including the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats. I actually sat next to her at those meetings and saw her engage and get those organizations started, because she could see what we needed based on the experience that she had, places she knew, and people that she was acquainted with. I can remember with the Urban League, she was personal friends with Roosevelt Johnson, who was head of the Urban League in Dallas, and she called up Roosevelt and said, we need an Urban League in Austin. So Roosevelt came down and we had a meeting of about 15 of us, and she led the meeting. But the reason why we have an Urban League in Austin is really due in large part to Judge Harriet Murphy. So she really went well beyond the responsibility that she had to try to make Austin a better place. I know the NAACP in Austin gives out an award called the Arthur D. Overton Award to the person that does the most in civil rights. It's a really prestigious award. And Judge Murphy was given that award because of the things that she's done, many of them that people don't know, but I think all of us know the integrity that, for example, Nelson Linder has. And Nelson doesn't just give those awards out for no reason over at the branch. Indeed, she has a great legacy. And one final point here, in terms of her ascendancy on the national level, she would talk to me a lot about trying to shape up, make sure black lawyers did the right thing. She would examine the National Bar Association, for example, that we all love. And when the National Bar Association was not doing right by female lawyers, she brought it up. She raised the issues. She talked about it in executive committee meetings of the National Bar Association. She was indeed somebody who was not just trying to move up and get some position of power. She was trying to acquire power to make sure things were done better and correctly. And one of the things that I think really says so much to me is that the National Bar Association gives out the Gertrude Rush Award. Now that's named for the first black woman that became a lawyer in the United States of America. It's really a highly prestigious award. And so she was selected by her peers nationwide to receive that award. So that really tells you that she was indeed widely respected. And I think that's one thing we have to always understand about Judge Murphy, is that she was always someone who was trying to make a difference, trying to bring about change, trying to make things better for other people. And she really wasn't trying to feather her own nest, but she was just really trying to do the right thing. So I think that the program that she assembled here, and I think we all have to look at it and understand this is a testament to her. This is her program. And I think it says a lot about her that she has so much concern for the community. And you see the categories of people that she would like to come and speak, because she was indeed a very inclusive person. And you know, one of the things that we can say about her is it's really tremendous that you can become a significant alumni of Spelman and a significant alumni of the University of Texas School of Law. You know, they are a little bit different institutions, but that shows the kind of individual that she is. She knows how to bridge the divide. She knows how to break down barriers. She knows how to relate with many, many people. And so I think that was one of the wonderful things about her. But we have some individuals from Spelman College that are here. Indeed, I think it's Spelman is just a tremendous college. People that went to Spelman are honestly and sincerely proud of having attended such a great institution. And we're proud to have Spelman members as members of this community, and they would like to come and pay tribute to our great friend, Judge Harriet Murphy. So I understand there are several people from Spelman, and please, when you come, because it's being recorded, could you give your name and all that in connection with Judge Murphy, so the family will have this on the recording. And Bill wanted me to let everyone know that the casket is Spelman blue, so that's important.
Good evening, and to the family. We're happy to be here to help celebrate the life of Judge Harriet Murphy. I'm Anita Dabney, and I'll say this, surprised you may be, I met Judge Murphy one night at Midtown Live. That, as everyone remembers, was a place where the African-American community hung out and socialized, had conversations, and planned other events, I'm sure. Someone introduced me to Harriet because I was a Spelman graduate. And, you know, that was one of my areas of, you know, I guess, what would you say, the ability to be included, you know, by Harriet. In addition to that, I was fortunate because she also knew my Atlanta Layton family. That was part of that family. But Judge Murphy was a mentor and a friend, and we all know she was a character. She perfected the art of self-promotion. But, as was mentioned earlier by Mr. Bledsoe, she came from an environment of empowerment. Empowerment in business and community, an environment at Spelman that empowered women to be, you know, achievers. And so she took that very seriously throughout her life. So I can imagine what it must have been like coming to an environment like Texas. So, as I said, I had her credentials being a Spelman graduate, and she took me under her wing as a mentor and a friend, and immediately began to pass the baton of chair of the Spelman Alumni Association here in Austin. So that's one of the reasons that we became very close. And she later also led me into the Austin chapter of the Lynx, the oldest chapter, and of course the first chapter of the Austin group, and through that we became friends. So in addition to being a mentor, she was a close friend. She always offered instruction and guidance on what we should be doing, and of course how to do it, in the sisterhood of friendship and also in service for the Spelman chapter of the National Association of Spelman College. Eventually, you begin to get her. And of course, you begin to get her style, and you could appreciate many of the challenges that she had faced, how she prepared herself to be better, to do more, and to further the struggle, particularly through education and civil rights. Judge Murphy set out making a choice to change the world long before it became the Spelman College motto that it is today. God bless her spirit, and may we all appreciate her whole spirit. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to another, I'll let each of these Spelman women introduce themselves, but after Judge Murphy got me involved in chairing our chapter, we recently have a new Spelman Alumni Association president here,
Hello. I just have a few words on behalf of the college. Every Spelman woman is charged with making a choice to change the world. And I'm certain we can all agree that Judge Murphy lived a life in service to humanity and made that choice over and over again. We're so blessed to have had such a remarkable example of servant leadership, activism, and a commitment to mentorship in our sisterhood. On behalf of Spelman College and our 11th president, Dr. Helene Gale, I offer this excerpt from our proclamation in memory of Judge Harriet Mitchell Murphy, class of 1949. Whereas throughout her nearly 75 years as an alumna and active member of her local National Alumni Association of Spelman College NAASC chapter, Judge Murphy consistently gave of her time and resource and was the founder and matriarch of the Austin San Antonio NAASC chapter. Judge Murphy was also a faithful donor. She shared her treasure by contributing to numerous scholarships, the annual fund, President's Safety Net, and Sister Chapel's renovation. For her commitment to the mission of the college and her achievements in her field, she achieved an honorary degree from her alma mater during commencement in 2013. Whereas Spelman College recognizes Judge Murphy's shared spirit and determination in the likeness of our founders and her service in accordance with the Spelman Standard. Raising such standards, embracing Spelman sisters, and serving as a model for future Spelman servant leaders. In true Spelman fashion, Judge Murphy was a beacon of heavenly light, undaunted by the fight, and now that life's race has won, her noble work is done.
Thank you, Shante and Anita. My name is Latifah Neal Franks, and I don't apologize for the program where my name is. I'm not a member of the Lakes. I'm with Spelman College. It was supposed to be Spelman College and Anita, so anyway, I want to apologize to the Lakes for that. Okay, so I traveled with Judge Murphy many times to Atlanta. It was either for a class reunion or an award she was receiving. And we had a lot of fun as we traveled the vibrant roads of Atlanta and, of course, the sacred grounds of Spelman. She was, I think I went with her when she became a Golden Girl. I was there, and they were a hoot. We had a lot of fun. I was there with her in 2013 when she received her award that Spelman bestowed upon her for a Doctors of Law. And she was very excited about that. She had a condominium there, we stayed there, and she was just so full of life. She had more energy than I did. I had a hard time trying to keep up with her. But anyway, I'm not going to take up too much time. I want to pass it on to my other Spelman sisters because I will share with you more about Judge Murphy in a little bit. The esteemed Gary took a little of my thunder, but you will get to hear some things again.
Sorry.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Natalie James, also a graduate of Spelman College. I recently moved to Austin and had the pleasure of meeting Judge Murphy once. But it's really nice to know the legacy that she's left here and creating such an awesome community, also being the founder of our alumni chapter and all of her acts of service.
Good evening, everyone. My name is LaShawn Thompson-Tanksley. I became a member of the community in 2008, and Judge Murphy was one of the first to welcome me here as a member of the chapter. I have so many memories in these 15 years that I have been here in the community. Just a few weeks before Christmas was my last time seeing her, so I'm so thankful that I got to see her at that time, and she was lively as ever, and encouraged us to come and see her more often. And that was very much her. She always wanted us to come and be around her, and we would talk about all different things in the community and how to make our chapter better, how to make our lives better, and how to live in Austin better.
Good evening, I'm Tiffany Dudley, class of 1992, Spelman College, and it doesn't surprise me at all that Judge Murphy is wrapped in Spelman blue. Before you are, we're taught before you're any part of a sorority or anything else, you're Spelman sisters. And she truly embraced me when I came here to inform me about the Spelman Alumni Association. That's just what we do, across borders, across boundaries. And I'm in the ranks with her, as I mentioned as well, and she carried that on also. So, again, our prayers, for us, for Lady Murphy, Spelman Sister Murphy, today, and with all family and friends.
Thank you so much, and we just want to close with one little piece. Part of our Spelman hymn talks about being undaunted, and I think if you look up the word undaunted, it certainly is very characteristic of and Spelman sister and community member Judge Harriet Murphy.
Definitely embodied that. She always welcomed all of her Spelman sisters, no matter what part of the country or the world they came from, because Spelman, we had international students as well. So I cannot say enough of how much she would reach back to make sure that she would bring one of us up with her.
guys may have to recite it.
Oh, here we are. Oh, here we are.
Spelman Blues.
This is in Sister
Much
Chapter.
better singers.
Well, that's really wonderful. And it's a great testament to Judge Murphy. Let me say, there's a story that I think Bill just told me about, that he wants everyone from Spelman to ingest so that the folklore continues in the Spelman community. But he indicated that there was one point in the life of Spelman, they were having some difficulties in raising funds. And one of the things they wanted to do was to raise funds from the former Vice President Nelson Rockefeller. And his organization was not forthcoming with funding. And so it came up in a discussion of individuals that were there seeking to raise funds for Spelman. And Judge Murphy said, "Oh, I know Nelson Rockefeller." And so she picked up the telephone, made a telephone call, and the history is that the Rockefeller Foundation then decided to donate substantial monies to Spelman College. So that's another great story of the connections, and I've seen her pick up the telephone and call many people of great power around the country. She indeed was someone who didn't brag about it, but who knew many, many people that had positions of great power around the country. So I think now we want to go to the community as the next on the program, and I think that we actually have a couple of persons listed, but as Bill mentioned to you earlier, we're not limiting individuals who want to come and speak. So if you're part of the community and want to come and speak, then I think that you should do so. And I guess first we have the judge's best friend, Dorothy Madison, and then we have Barbara Williams after that.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. You're going to hear a lot of repetition during these next 2 days, because we all know what she's done.
I'm to talk about Harriet's community involvement. May the work I've done speak for me. May the service I've given speak to you. Webster defines a trailblazer as a pioneer in any field of endeavor. Harriet was indeed a trailblazer with the list of her contributions to the Austin community and the many organizations that she belonged to. Now, if she joined, she became a committed member. She was an active member of the Links Incorporated, NAACP, Austin Urban League, University of Texas Precursors, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the National and Local Alumni Associations of Spelman College, Texas Exis, University of Texas, Austin Democratic Party, National Council of Black Judges, Travis County Women's Lawyers, Austin Black Lawyers Association, and Women's Chamber of Commerce. Not only did she enjoy her membership in these organizations, but she worked diligently to make a difference. She either held an office in most of them or was the chairperson of essential committees. She planned events, she could recognize talent, and she was creative, and you could always count on her to raise funds. For example, as president of the Links, she planned a fundraiser completely out of the box. Zachary Scott Theater was showcasing a play called Five Guys Named Mo. That play was about the music of the late Louis Jordan. Harriet found out that his widow lived in Las Vegas. She contacted her and flew her in to attend the play, and we sold the theater out. So that was really amazing to me. It was also amazing to observe the way contributors would give to a cause just because Harriet had the gumption to boldly ask for what she thought would make an impact on organizations. She spent many hours in Jack and Jill working with teams. Now, she was working with these teams for a debate contest, for competition. And you know teenagers, they're not interested. But she made them do this. And they came back from the conventions with first place trophies all the time. Now that's what I call inspiration, because the look on their faces told it all. She effectively used her time and creative energy to help organizations achieve greater heights. Between her beloved alma maters, the University of Texas Law School and Spelman College, she leaves amazing legacies. She was instrumental in getting the law school to sponsor an annual banquet to honor the late Virgil C. Locke, the first African-American to finish the University of Texas Law School. Not only did she recruit young women to attend Spelman College, but she supported both of these schools financially. On the religious front, Harriet served as the legal arm of Ebenezer Baptist Church and remained a member until her health prevented her from participating. Additionally, with others, she chartered the Austin office of the Urban League. These are just a few of her community involvements and contributions. There were many, many, many more. She was a generous and hard-working woman, unmatched to those who worked closely with her in these organizations. Harriet, no doubt, was recognized for many talents. She invited community leadership in Austin, where her unwavering dedication leaves an indelible mark on our community. As a prominent figure in the Austin area, Harriet's passion for serving the community drove her numerous achievements and awards. Oh, how she will be missed. Her spirit will forever be with me and those who knew her well. Her memories will linger with us all. Thank you, God, for giving us a Harriet Mitchell Murphy, a bona fide trailblazer and my friend. Harriet, you can now rest. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Williams Huggins. I'm a friend of Judge Harriet Murphy since 1978 when I came to Austin, Texas. She was an outstanding woman who is highly respected in many, many ways for her achievements and contributions in our communities, city, state, and nation. The last quality time I spent with Judge Murphy was at our I Bid a Grand Slam at ATX Bridge Party in March of 2023. She looked so pretty with her beautiful red hair freshly done and her green eyes sparkling mischievously when you asked, "Would you like to have a drink, Judge?" I remember giving her a big hug, squeezing her hand and kissing her on the cheek, telling her what a good player she was. Several other members showed her some love on that same day. That was really a fun day, especially for her. We thank God for the life of this unique, complex, extraordinary, irreplaceable Harriet Murphy. She was in several bridge clubs in our city. 1, H-Trade Bridge Club. 2, Grand Slam Bridge Club. 3, the Players Bridge Club. 4, the Austin County Bridge Club. And 5, I Bid a Grand Slam at ATX. She loved the game of bridge, and she could play. As a matter of fact, she would often let you know by saying, "I can play bridge." We thank God for the life of this unique woman, and we will never have erased from our mind her different personality. Let me tell you again, she was outstanding, especially at bridge. She was never embarrassed to tell you, "I beat you up today." She was never embarrassed to make her bridge. And as I said, she was a good bridge player. Loved to have fun. The current director of the local Austin County Bridge Club is Hank Urban. He provided me with this information about Harriet. She was a senior life master with 499 points. That was a rank she earned over the years with her membership in the American Bridge Club. And for those of you who play bridge, you know that's a lot of points. Harriet was always happy to earn points, but she would applaud you if you won the points. Our director, Hank, said 499 points is exceptional, especially when she didn't actively participate in the larger tournaments nationwide. That was very impressive. And Hank is not here today. He is the director of our local bridge club. He's the past president of the National American Bridge Association and the current vice president of the American Bridge Association. He sends his regrets and condolences. He is directing the bridge tournament in Houston, Texas, and that's why he's not here. Judge Harriet continued to attend bridge meetings after her health began to affect her memory. She played with the help of others, but she received that help very reluctantly. Her faded memory began to return, and she won first place in one of the last meetings she attended. She was so proud, and all of us were so proud of her. Hosting a Grand Slam ATX Bridge Party may have been her last event in 2023. The event, supported by her good friend Bill Lyons, was fabulous. Bridge was a social outlet for Harriet. She loved competition, and she loved entertaining her bridge club in her lovely home. Her bridge parties would often include a well-known person and sometimes a celebrity guest. Her house guests were always given a bridge party, as her friends, especially her friends from Atlanta, would always love to play bridge when they visited with her. Judge Harriet Murphy was also interested in growing and expanding the bridge clubs in Austin. She sponsored some in one of the clubs that she belonged to.
As a matter of fact, she sponsored me into the Bridge Club Grand Slam over 35 years ago. I told you I met her in 1978. She went right to work on me. And I am still a happy, active member of the Bridge Club. I didn't say I was a great player, but she did mentor me. As we say goodbye to our friend Harriet Mitchell Murphy, let us celebrate her life, her spirit, and her friendship. Would any Bridge players who are here stand? If you're not a Bridge player, you may stand also. Let us remember the strength she brought into our lives. And so on behalf of all of our Bridge players, I want to express our deepest gratitude for the time we were blessed to share with Judge Murphy. Her presence in our lives brought immeasurable joy, love, and laughter. And for this, we are forever grateful. We shall miss you, Harriet. We shall miss your great plan. You know how when you join a new group, they ask you, stand up and give a little something about yourself. Just introduce yourself and say one thing that you would like for us to know about you. I imagine wherever Harriet is in the unknown, where she is at the bridge table, she would probably say this. Hello, everyone. My name is Judge Harriet Murphy. And the one thing I want you to know is I am an excellent bridge player. We shall miss you, Harriet. We thank God for you and the time we spent with you. God bless you, and God bless each of us. Thank you.
Oh, there's some wonderful stories and testaments about the judge. I know that one of the things she was always big about was having young people get exposed to things that really make a difference in the world. And bridge is a what? It's a power game. That's what a lot of the more affluent play at the law school. That's what they played. And she was always big with golf too, right? I mean, she would be with Bertha Means and be out there and wanting to have that game as part of her repertoire like others should have. You know, I think many of us may not know, but at Howard School of Business now, if you want to get a business degree, you have to take a course in golf. So I think that's important. So she always had that vision to understand the things that would need to be in the repertoire of young people who wanted to make a difference and to move up. So any other members of the community? If not, we will now move to the neighborhood.
Creed Gibson of the neighborhood.
Okay, Ms. Gibson, okay. Creed, okay, great. Okay. Is Ms. Gibson here? Esteemed, okay.
Good evening. My name is Judith Jenkins, and I'm a member of the Precursors, which is a group of ex-Black students of the University of Texas. And this is the opportunity I had to really meet Judge Murphy. And knowing her was always an experience. It wasn't just an event, it was an experience. And Harriet, she knew how to command attention. She knew how to direct you if you were not firm in where you wanted to go. And she also was always, here comes the judge. And we all enjoyed working with her. She was 100% devoted to furthering the future of Blacks at the University of Texas. And she gave money every year just so she would have the right to speak
And she spoke loudly. And she's one of the few people I've ever met who was annually invited to sit in the president's box at the football games. So she was a leader, she was a feminine force, and we will all miss her because there will be an empty space where she was. And I appreciate knowing her and representing the precursors here at her event. Thank you.
Thank you.
She really did love the precursors. It was really a mainstay of that group that's continued to try to bring about positive change at the University of Texas. So we're so glad that the precursors are here to be spoken for, because indeed that was a very important organization to her. Okay, neighborhood. We have anyone in the neighborhood? Skips?
Dr. Quantum.
Oh, Dr. Quanter's going to do it.
Well,
Briefly.
briefly, Judge Murphy is a legend at the University of Texas. I came to Texas in 1969, and at that time, I was on the medical staff and also considered a faculty member. There were two other faculty members, Dr. Bullock and I believe Sachs, Dr. Sachs. Yeah, we were the first three faculty members at the University of Texas. If you listen to UT Sports, the games or anything, you will always hear a name mentioned, and that's a legend at the University of Texas, and that is Judge Murphy. In addition to bridge, I was a good member of, a grand member of the family that included Pat and the music and their entertainment. They were very great entertaining in addition to bridge. And Pat was a great saxophonist, and we were really thrilled by the hostess and hosting that the family provided us. But I said once more, Judge Murphy was a legend at the University of Texas, and you will always hear her name mentioned. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman, what is coming to you in particular. The City of Austin is next on the agenda. Okay. Roy.
I just want to represent the neighborhood because I was actually happened to join into Judge Murphy's neighborhood when I was 7 years old. My father Willie, my mom Doris, Will Height, and my sister Cheryl and I moved next door to Judge Murphy. And I think this was 68, 69 before she was a judge. And Of course, when you're young, I was 7 years old, I didn't, get with the younger kids in the neighborhood, and we formed a little crew. It was me, Rodney's sister, and Judge Murphy's son, Charles. We called him Baby Charles, because he was the youngest of all of us. And we ran up and down the street all day, every day, sun up to sundown. And Judge Murphy had a yard where she had the slope. And we played King of the Hill because they had the best slope where you could toss people down. and I know we tore her yard up, but she never told us anything or said anything about it. And another thing she would do is, she would always dress Charles in the best clothes. I mean, he had the best. And he would come running outside to play with us in those clothes. So by the time he went in, they were torn up. So I can imagine what she was saying to him, but she never did say anything to us. And I didn't know how important a woman she was, because to us, she was just Charles' mom. Back then, everybody in the neighborhood, the older woman in the neighborhood was your mom. And we just knew her as Charles' mom. And back then also, she had this big German Shepherd, huge German Shepherd. I think his name was Teddy. And we would always sneak into her backyard and play with Teddy. And Teddy was friendly, playful, until it was time to eat. And then when he would eat, you did not mess with him. You left him alone. And of course, us, our whole crew, being bad, that's just what we did. We would wait till he started eating, and then we would sneak up behind him and then poke him on the butt. And then he would get enraged and chase us. The only way to get out of the yard, we had to jump the fence. We either jump the fence into Paul's yard or jump the fence into my yard. And all this time, I don't know if Judge Murphy knew half the stuff that we were doing in her yard. But she never said anything. She would just give us a look. And I just remember those being some of the most fun times, with us, Charles, Paul, Rodney's sister. We had a great time in that neighborhood with Judge Murphy. And I hated when they left and moved, but that's something I always will cherish and always will remember. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, what the statute of limitations is on juvenile delinquency there.
Here, let me say something. Neighborhood. Once she moved off of Greensboro and moved off of Springdale Road on a street called Quiet Drive. And some of you remember that. And so I happen to be a next door neighbor. But before I can go into that, my brother Gus, who was a lawyer also, was a great friend of her husband, Pat. And that's how we became close. And Pat, my brother Gus, was also a musician. And they played in different bands all over. But they lived next door, and so I happened to acquire to be associated and married Hazel Obi, who lived the house next door before Harriet moved there. And so when she agreed to move into the neighborhood everybody was worked through Mildred Sneed. And Mildred Sneed, that whole community off that. Now, you have to understand, this community is not technically in Austin. It's in Travis County. So Travis County is very important to her. And it still hasn't been annexed yet. And she's been trying to get it annexed ever since back then, for sewage and all the other things that come with being in the county. So next door to her, we were next door when she moved in. Miss Husbeth was around the corner. Across the street was Felix Garrett and that family. The coach, former coach of LBJ High School, was the only white person we kind of let in the neighborhood. He was the football coach at LBJ. So, and then Coach Wilson from Houston Tilton was around the corner. Everybody, they all knew each other. It was some kind of special neighborhood. But anyway, I wanted to, and McCree's in the back, and I'm glad she came, representing, because Felix was a special, her father was a special and mother was a special friend of Harriet. So I had to let that, how we all sort of knew each other, lived in the neighborhood, and she loved that place there on Quiet and Dry. And so, anyway, I'll be quiet because
That's a wonderful story. One of the things I always remember, there was always some activity at the household. Either Patrick was hosting the ballet or practicing music, or the judge was hosting bridge friends. So they always had tons of activity. When I went over there to pick up Charles, they had a lot of activity at the house.
party every day, every week was a party.
Okay, City of Austin?
Neighborhood.
Neighborhood.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Ward. I wasn't going to get up here, but my wife kind of pulled my leg. My wife. I knew Charles and Judge Murphy. I met Judge Murphy by accident. Charles and I used to go diving at the local swimming pool, Givens Park, diving Jordan. So that's how I met Charles. I was raised extremely strict, and I was born in '63. So if you've been brought up in a strict family, you know when the sun started going down, 7:30, and the light flicker, yeah, you better run in the house. So I was a hard head when I used to stay outside, because I wanted to just stay outside all day. I would, in the summertime, would swim from morning to night. Now, of course, my aunt, you know, we're not gonna go there, but I met Charles because we ended up going to Givens Park, and we were diving against each other, and he was already there. And when I got there, he was like, okay, here come Jay. And so then he would get up there on the high board, and he would do a certain move. And then I would get up there, and the only thing that no one else could do there was called the thing. It was a half gainer with a twist, and you landed on your feet in the water. So Charles came up to me and said, hey man, how you doing that? So we got together and started practicing. I told him how to twist, and he was already good. But we used to go diving. And I'll never forget, they lived on Loyola. Charles and I was at his mom's house. Judge Murphy walked in. I said, hello ma'am, how you doing? You better speak. You know, when you raised right, you better speak when somebody walks in the house. And then he said, Mom, this is JJ. He's my diving buddy. We go diving together. And that's when I met Judge Murphy. And man, it just brings back memories, because years later, how did I ever think? My wife and I have been married for 6 years and became Judge Murphy caregiver. And when I walked in the house and I said, Judge, how are you doing? And if I would have met the judge when I started playing golf in 1987, I would have been on somebody's tour, making some money. Because when I walked in the judge's house, when my wife was working with her, I said, babe, what's these golf clubs? Judge said, those are my golf clubs. You want to go play? I said, Judge, I'm going to tell you now, I've been playing a while. I know what I'm doing now. Well, I don't think you can outdrive me. I said, okay, Judge. Okay, well, I guess we'll never find out today. But she always used to ask me, you want to get them clubs and you go use them and bring them back? I said, no, ma'am, I have a brand new set. Now, thank you, Judge. I appreciate it. But she was very, very loving. I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much.
Great story. That diving's got to be pretty dangerous and complicated, so I have to tip my hat to you there now. Were you afraid to take the judge up on that challenge with the golf clubs? I'm not sure.
No,
Okay. So I understand we have a challenge to the city of Austin. We have representatives from the city of Atlanta that would like to come and pay tribute to the judge. So we have representatives from the city of Atlanta or who come from Atlanta. Oh, okay.
Good evening. The authority of Jesus Christ is without parallel. He is a God who sits high and looks down low. He is a God that is full of love and grace. And he is a God who is not handicapped by the machinations or the conniptions of man, but instead he is a God who is creative and has determined and made up his mind that he is going to love and take care of each and every one of us. And the best part about it is when God is taking care of each one of us, sometimes he uses people to take care of us. And sitting back and listening to the stories about Judge Harriet Murphy, some of them I knew, some of them I didn't know, it just became even more crystal clear that my cousin, your friend, your grandmother, your judge, your lawyer, your bridge partner was a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ himself. I'm going to be brief because, this is a difficult time for all of us. But what I want to say is we shared the same grandfather, Reverend Walter M. Mitchell, and he was a civil rights activist back in Georgia, in Greene County. He got the high school built because he was able to see, back then, there was separate and equal. Well, they got the separate part right, but the equal needed some working on. And they ran him out the county, and he went to Atlanta, and his granddaughter at that time, Judge Murphy, was living in Buckhead, a northern area of Atlanta. My mother was actually, who was 12 years younger than Cousin Harriet, but my mother was Cousin Harriet's aunt, and a Spelman graduate, and they would go to those commencements and functions. Someone spoke about the honorary degree back in 2013, I remember that. But I said all that to say this, with hearing the accolades of being the first at UT and these honorary degrees and starting these leagues and making this impact corporately, I just wanted to touch on the personal impact that she had on my life. My earliest memories of Harriet is her driving to Atlanta from Texas, her and Pat, one of the nicest men. I mean, just a giant of a man, but just one of the nicest men I'd ever met. And Harriet came and picked us up in the Cadillac. She rode in style. And my mama and everybody, and she took us to Erskine. Erskine was having a wedding at his house. And Harriet and I, we danced the afternoon away at that wedding, eating pink cake and drinking champagne. Well, no. I was eating pink cake, She was the one drinking champagne. And I must have been around 10 years old at that time. But some of you know that over the course of years, and as life happens, sometimes things happen. And about, maybe 10 years ago or so, I found myself in a very terrible, terrible way. I had some real challenges going on in my life. So much so that I was at the lowest, And some may understand what it means when I say I hit my bottom. I hit rock bottom. But God, who is rich in mercy, who doesn't give up on anybody. In fact, he said he came to save the least, the less, and the lost. And Judge Murphy wasn't necessarily someone who get up and talk about God's work, but the way she lived, she would be about God's work. And when I was at my lowest, and everybody, my mama had done everything she could for me. She never gave up on me. But Judge Harriet Murphy allowed me to stay at that condo in Atlanta, and I was able to set a foundation for my life to be changed and transformed. And it was her doing the work of the Lord. Not talking about it or making a big deal about it. No, very few people probably knew. But since that time, I was able to turn things around, get married, start my own family, get a new career, be successful in that career. I've been Salesman of the Month 13 months in a row. And all of that was built upon the love of Jesus Christ working through my cousin, Judge Harriet Murphy. Listen, I know the world is a crazy place. And I know a lot of things are going on that have a lot of people saying, what in the world is this world coming to? But there's still light in the darkness. There's still good people out there that are willing to go the extra mile just to let their light shine, to let their love shine, to be about God's word. I'm reminded of the song, the old hymn in closing. I heard the voice of Jesus say, come unto me and rest. It says, lay down, thou weary one, lay down thy head upon my breast. And the last stanza is my favorite stanza. It says, I came to Jesus just as I was. And on a night like this, I can say, Judge Murphy has gone to Jesus just as she is, just as she was. Weary, worn, and sad. But there's good news, y'all. There's good news, granddaughter. There's good news, Spelman graduates and bridge players. She has found in him a resting place in the name of Jesus. And he has, God has, not her bank account, not her associations, not her accomplishments, but the Lord Jesus Christ himself has made Judge Harriet Murphy glad. From everlasting to everlasting, from grace to grace, from faith to faith. Judge Harriet Murphy, cousin, I love you so much. And until we meet again, may you rest in peace.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Damon. I'm from Atlanta. And I call Harriet Aunt Harriet. But the reality is, she's just my older cousin. She would come to Atlanta often, and that's where I would interact with the most. And I was her chauffeur, for the most part. Wherever she needed to go, or she called me when she was coming in, or my grandfather would call me and tell her, well, Harriet's on her way. So whatever I had planned, obviously, she needed to be dropped. And I needed to go and make sure that she got to where she needed to go when she needed to go. And I remember when she became a Golden Girl, because that was, I think, the last time that I probably chauffeured her around. At some point, she got to a place where she couldn't travel as much as she used to. She came to my graduation when I graduated from Clark Manor, her and Uncle Pat, and she, made a point to tell me that law school should be for me. So, I kind of thought about it a little bit. I considered it, but I know my strengths and weaknesses. She did at some point convince me to drive all the way from Atlanta to come to Austin so she could take me to the University of Texas Law School to tour it. I think she really, really wanted one of her family members to kind of follow in her footsteps. But those are big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. It's really nice to hear all of the stories, all of the experiences, and the love that she had here and that she shared. And there's a lot of similarities in my memories with her. So I'm just glad that, I was related to her, that I got to know her, that she lived such a full life, and she embodied, excellence in so many ways. Helps you realize, like, or self-reflect and think, what am I doing with my life? You know, no matter how good you're doing, when you think about Harriet, you're like, maybe I got a little more in the tank, right? So I just like to say again, thank you all for whatever, you know, impact you had on her life. And I'm just really glad that she found, you know, the success that she did. And when Bill called me to tell me that she had transitioned, I can't tell you that I was upset or sad. I was actually relieved that she wasn't suffering, right? And it was just extraordinary to me that she had just lived such an amazing life. So thank you all, and that's my story.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Hugh Allen. I'm not from Atlanta. My mother, I'm a byproduct of Atlanta. I'm from Houston, Texas. First and foremost, my condolences to the family and to her granddaughters. I'm the cousin that you didn't know you had. And I'll explain that in a second. Someone asked earlier about where, they were thinking about where Aunt Harriet, and I call her Aunt Harriet too, where Aunt Harriet would be. Well, I have a feeling she's with my mother and my Aunt Doris. My mother, Eleanor Allen, and my Aunt Doris Hall grew up with her in Atlanta. My Aunt Doris went to Spelman with her. And I have a lot of stories I could tell. I'm going to tell one about Spelman shortly because it had an impact on me more than once in my life. The relationship I had with her was amazing. It started in 1963 when I was born. So, but she's reunited, I guess I could call it, say this, with the Red Devils. You know, my auntie had apricot hair, so they were something. They were a sight to see. And when Harriet would come to Houston to visit us, my mother would set up the house for bridge because she knew that was her thing, that was her game. Aunt Harriet, she was legendary. Someone spoke about, if you watch the Longhorn Network, which I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, you know, I have the Longhorn Network because I'm a graduate of the University of Texas. I like to see the Longhorns, but I never got to go with her to the president's box. I have a regret about that. But, you know, they have a whole commercial about her being a Longhorn legend. And I hope that stays on there for a while. But she wasn't just a Longhorn legend. As you can tell with that lining, she was a Spelman legend. So I'm gonna tell a little story about Spelman and my relationship with Spelman and with her. So my wife is a graduate of Spelman. She graduated in 1988. And my daughter is about to graduate from Spelman, which made Harriet very happy when she heard that she was going there. So what people may not know about Aunt Harriet, when I was at the University of Texas, she would host young ladies from Spelman during their spring break who had an interest in going to law school. Sometimes I would be the beneficiary of those young ladies coming to visit because she would call me and say, I'm not going to know where to take these girls. Why don't you take them out? And of course, I said, sure, I'll take them out. Of course I will. I was born tonight, but not last night. And I graduated in 1986. My wife, who is now a lawyer, she came in 1987. So I just missed my wife. And it's a good thing that we didn't see each other meet because she wouldn't have liked me when I was in UT. But it was funny because Harriet told her and the two other young ladies that came with her for that spring break, she said, you know, I'm sorry. And she picked them up in the Cadillac. And I talked to my wife about this on my way over here. She picked them up in her Cadillac. She had on her ultra suede skirt, leather boots. She was playing rap music, trying to be cool. She didn't have to try that hard. My hair was cool. And she said, girls, I'm sorry, you're going to have to hang out with me and my husband, Pat. I usually have these young men at UT that I call and they take you out, but they've all graduated, so you're stuck with me. And my wife said she was so glad she was stuck with her because that's the first time she ever had a fajita at the Hyatt Regency down on what was Town Lake at the time. So, you know, I'm going to cut my comments off there because Harriet was a family member. people back in Charlotte at work. I said, I'm coming down to Austin because I have to be here for my Aunt Harriet. Oh, we're sorry to hear about your auntie. Mother side, father side. I said, all sides. She was, she's got quite the legacy, and she will always be a legend. Thank you.
Excuse me for a second, I got to, now all of y'all know, Debbie Allen, you ever heard of Debbie Allen? Felicia Richard, that's her brother. But their mother and Harriet were traveling all over the country, all from Atlanta, all to Washington, D.C., everywhere. They were best of friends. And I thank him, and I thank Rosamond for coming from Atlanta, and Demond, they all came because they loved Harriet, and they would check on her all the time. But your mother she was always special to Harriet, and the Allen family. Thank you so much.
Wow. What a great family, and of course, to even have a granddad that's a great civil rights person. I think that says a lot. All I'm gonna say, you may look at the ministry at some point, because I think I saw that in you. So I think we've heard from the city of Atlanta. I don't know anyone in the city of Austin. If not, we will go to Travis County. I see the commissioner here, and so looking forward to hearing from him. He's always got great things to say, and how close he was to the judge.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, now, let me assure you that Travis County had a great deal of love for the judge, and we have prepared a stellar, long, 8x11, 2-page document detailing her commitment to the county and our love for her. But my wife told me that she would break my leg if I actually read it. So I'm not going to actually read it, but I would like to have all of my colleagues at the county stand up so you can be recognized. A number of them serving county. And stand up. So I'm going to have to represent the city of Austin. I worked there 20 years as well. So I'll represent the city as well and just say that there are so many wonderful things I think that we can say about the judge. But honorable is a really appropriate title for her. The honorable, because of who she was and how she did what she did. She was committed to excellence. She was always in pursuit of excellence. But, oftentimes in the pursuit, we might not be as kind as we might be. She was kind. She was generous with her time. Yes. She was wise. Yes. And I like to think of her as an institutionalist. If she was involved in something, she was there to heal and build. Whether we're talking about Spelman, whether we're talking about Delta Sigma Theta, whether we're talking about the links, whatever she was involved in, she was there to build. Not only for herself, but for those who would follow her. It is so important that we build a path for those who would follow us. And she was consistent about working with, about caring for, about guiding and nurturing. And if you knew her, you knew that about her. And if you look somewhere in the book of Micah, I think the 6th chapter, around the 8th verse, it tells us that we should act justly, that we should love mercy, and we should walk humbly with our God. She did all of those things so well. And I can only say, well done. Yes. Well done. And we will always love you for the commitment that you made to us, to this community, and how you guided and directed us. And I will make sure that Delta Sigma Theta, that the links, and that the family get copies of our proclamation, and we will be putting this in front of the Travis County Court on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, thank you so much, and thank you for speaking for the city of Austin too. I think that's great. The state of Texas, is there anyone here representing the state of Texas? Okay, here comes our state representative here. Love those cowboy boots.
I represent. I bring you greetings from the great state of Texas. I would like to ask any members of the Austin Black Lawyers Association to stand. Velva and Laura. Judge Murphy, and she always made sure that you knew that, was an inspiration to all of us, especially the female lawyers. And I remember she took me aside and said, Cheryl, what are you going to do with yourself besides get married? And I said, well, I'm going to practice law. And she said, you need to think about public service and about being a judge. And I haven't done that yet. But I always remember that Judge Murphy said that. She walked with giants, and I've been so pleased to learn so much about her this evening. Hugh Allen and I went to college together, and I did not know that his mother was good friends with Judge Murphy. And I see so many wonderful women out in this community that have been so inspirational to me because of Judge Murphy. I too have a proclamation that I'm not going to read, but I have it and I want to deliver it to the family and to thank all of you for coming out and sharing the love for Judge Murphy.
Thank you, Cheryl. Again, great story. Okay, I think, Velva, are you standing up? You're not coming forward. So now we have the United States. Anyone who represents the United States? No? Young draft Albert?
I'll go there right quick. On the table when you come in, you will see the letter from President Joe Biden. Now, she knew him as Uncle Joe. And she knew him back in '71 when Hillary and Bill Clinton were campaigning for McGovern. Joe was there with her. So she knew, she had known him and was trying to call him, actually 3 or 4 weeks ago, to get him to do something. But anyway, Harriet had a personal relationship with the President of the United States. And also, she had a relationship with Vice President Harris. By the way, through my good friend Willie Brown, who was the mayor of San Francisco, Speaker of the House of San Francisco, head of the Democrat, all the other stuff Willie Brown had done. But Willie Brown is from Minneota, Texas. So anyway, Willie, and so Harriet had knew that she could get to anybody, whether the president, whether the vice president, she would call him. And so she, on the OJ trial, she was a commentator and all. Anyway, I won't get it. But there's so many stories. But Harriet felt like she could get to anyone, anybody in the United States of America. Now, one other person I want to mention is the justice on the 5th Circuit, Carl Stewart. He was a personal friend of hers, people had all kind of difficulty and wanted to work with the Supreme Court on different issues, including our great University of Texas. They all communicated with the politically astute Harriet Murphy. And they knew that, and so that, I think that kind of helped her get those tickets to all of the UT football games, not on the field, but in the president's suite. And even Elaine, and she would always take everyone was guests to go with her to all the football games, and she knew every football coach. Always, Mac Brown, all of them knew her. Charlie Strong, and then Herman, and then now Sarkeesian. So when Sarkeesian's first game, Harriet was in the box to see him because he had been at USC, and the president of USC was a black lady, female, sitting there next to her. She wanted them to know that, but the president had her in the box. And so I had to commend former President Fenders, who's now president of Emory University. And she did her thesis in history of Israel and the Jews. She loved history and all of that, but anyway, that sort of did let you know how rich and she was, and I'll let the UT people go from there, but I wanted to make those points. Excuse me, Peter. And
I think rank's been pulled. Your Honor is here, so we have, we'll go to the judges category here with the judge's sorority sister and Judge Laura Libby's.
Thank you so much. The family. It was important to Judge Murphy that she was the first, but it was equally important to her that she was not the last. So her role as a mentor to all the upcoming judges, all the wannabe judges, all the people who wanted to know how to spell judge, everybody knew that they had to go to Judge Murphy to sit at her feet, to kiss the ring, if you will, to learn what it meant to be a judge and to understand the awesome responsibility that one has. You know she was a joiner, and so she would also drag you to join something or other. The Austin Black Lawyers Association, the National Bar Association, the Judicial Council of the National Bar Association. But she always offered a carrot along with a little bit of stick. And she would say, now when you join, you have to do some work. But you get to go to really cool places, because the Judicial Council in its February midwinter meeting goes to Barbados. So she was quick to point that out. You've heard so much already tonight about the things that she's accomplished and her participation in so many things. I want to take a little bit of a different tack. So think of this. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never harm me. When you grow up a black woman in America, you learn that old adage at a very early age, and you say it out loud to remind yourself to stay calm, to act like a lady, and to walk away. When you grow up in a segregated world and you have to fight for your basic human rights, you remind yourself of that old adage, and you remind yourself that those who call you out your name are not worthy of your time and attention. You have to remind yourself of that old adage, and you have to remind yourself that those unworthy name callers can't hurt you, and they certainly can't deter you from reaching your goals. When you grow up a warrior in the civil rights movement, you get called a lot of ugly names like Harriet did. And you must remember that they can't hurt you, and they certainly cannot stop you from your path to greatness. Growing up when she did, during the ugliness of her time, Judge Murphy must have had to repeat that adage to herself over and over again. But here's the thing. The names that we call our dear beloved Harriet Murphy are worthy of repeating. The names that tell her story, the names that describe her accomplishments, the names that resonate with all who knew her, these are the names that we must never forget. Indeed, our dear Harriet answered to many amazing names: teacher, college professor, wife, mother, grandmother, godmother, community activist, trailblazer, pathfinder, style maven, church hat connoisseur, friend, Delta, Link, good troublemaker, super competitive bridge player, faithful servant of the Lord, and my favorite, judge. These are but a few of the many names and titles that described our beloved Harriet. These are the names that provided her with the best defense to the sticks and stones and the slings and arrows of her detractors. These are the names of a worthy role model. These are the names of a woman who persevered. These are the names of a woman of character. These are the names of a successful woman. These are the names that we recall when we think of our beloved Judge Harriet Murphy. Well done, my sister Harriet. Well done. Now, sister, rest in peace.
Amen.
Thank you, Judge. Such well-spoken, heartfelt words. Any other members of the judiciary? I see some fine members of the judiciary, so anyone else wish to speak? Judge? Okay, great. Right, Judge Brown's coming down, and then Judge Williams. Okay, great. I see Latifah's coming too. Okay. Okay.
Good evening. Just wanted to just say this, that you've heard that she's been the first, and as Judge Livingston just said, she was very, it was important to her that she's not the last. And I have very fond memories of visiting with Judge Murphy at the National Bar Association, and always her being so encouraging to me as a new judge, and oftentimes we were the only ones from Austin, and you know, she was a legend in the National Bar Association, the Judicial Council, and so I would, you know, use her celebrity to my benefit in the National, Judicial Association. But I'll tell you, it's one thing to be the first, but it's another thing to be the only. And I can tell you that I can only imagine being the only graduate of her graduating class at the University of Texas in 1969 must have been just an amazing thing, and must have been such a hard road for her to travel. And it's not lost on me that her being the first, because you can't have a second or third or fourth without a first. And so we pay great homage to her for being a trailblazer in that regard, and we all stand on her shoulders in the judiciary, and we will miss her greatly. And we only can hope to live up to her legacy and to also extend ourselves in the way that she extended herself to those coming up behind. All right? Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Williams, are you?
Thank you, Mr. Bledsoe. Good evening, folks. My name is Yvonne Williams, and I am the Justice of the Peace at Precinct 1, and I bring you greetings, family, and condolences. Because Judge Murphy was very special to us at Justice of the Peace Precinct 1. I was the first transition of that seat after 35 years of Judge Richard Scott. And when I started to run for that office, I was told, like Judge Livingston over there, that I might want to get Judge Murphy on my side. And so I did. And it was pretty clear, it was made clear to me at one point or another that she thought that the person who replaced Judge Scott really ought to be an Austinite, ought to have been born and raised in Austin. I was not. I was born and raised in Hallisfield. So that's kind of a far cry there. But I do believe I convinced her that all would be well if I was to get the seat, and I worked hard for it and won it, and here I am, and she became one of my most devoted, regular visiting judges. And so she would come and sit the bench as often as she could, and she did often, into her 90s, sit the bench. Every now and then there'd be a little flutter after she left. She would say what she felt like saying. and you just had to love her. Now, to a couple of people who were being evicted, she would look at the man sitting next to them and say, well, can he help you with your rent? So my staff said, well, a couple of people left kind of mad today, Judge, so that'll be all right. But I'll share one story with Judge. I did get to go sit in the president's box with Judge Murphy at a UT football game. I had no idea what that was really valued at. She said, you want to go to the game with me? I said, well, yeah, I guess. And I'm so glad I took her up on it because it was a special event. It was special. She had a special privileged spot to sit in. We drove right up to the gate. I was thinking, oh, we're going to, we went right there, sit in the president's box, got to watch that game. Now, she was a little nervous when I picked her up because I'm known for being late, and I was. And so she said to me, you do realize we have to catch the actual kickoff. Well, okay. But she didn't know that I was quite the driver, and I got her stay time. I'm one person that can leave late and end up there early, and we did get to the kickoff, and so she still remained my friend. I will always remember and love her. She was quite the competitor, wasn't she? We enjoyed her at JP Precinct 1, and I want you to know that, you know, I couldn't have made the first few years once I got that bench without Judge Murphy being there. Thank you for the time.
Judge Murphy is really powerful to get you to a football game, Judge, so I think it's good. I think Tifa would like us to know that the city of Austin does have a proclamation, though there wasn't anyone here to actually bring that, but she'd like to come up and mention the proclamation to you. I don't think she wants to read it.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, so you get me again. I just wanted the family who traveled from Atlanta to know that the city of Austin did not forget Judge Murphy. After all, she was a city of Austin municipal civil court judge. Mayor Kurt Watson prepared a proclamation, and it really is for tomorrow, but I just wanted to let you know that the city is represented. I am a City of Austin employee, and I wanted to show this to you, and I'll make sure that the family receives a copy. Also, I have wanted to let you know, please stay, because the Deltas will be coming on in a little bit. In the meantime, excuse me, I've been a little shy about telling some of my stories about Judge Murphy. I have lots of stories. One that I will tell you now is that because one of the cousins mentioned about driving Judge Murphy. Okay, so Tasia and I allowed Judge Murphy to talk us into driving her from Austin to New Orleans. She was going to a lawyer's conference. And so, of course, she didn't drive. We drove. We took turns driving. And we all stayed at the Marriott. And we valet parked her car. So I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I have relatives there in New Orleans. So I called them, one of my cousins actually, to pick me up. And she did. I left. When I got back, Judge Murphy told me, she said, you stole my car. I said, what? She said, you took my car without asking me. I said, I would never do that. She said, no, you took my car. And she was convinced that I took her car. I said, I tell you what, let's go down to valet, and you can ask them if anyone has checked out your car. She said, I don't want to do that. So you know what I learned about her? She liked a good argument. It was all about, I guess, how well I could convince her that I had not taken her car. Because initially I was, quite frankly, I was a little hurt. I'm like, I told her I won't take your car unless I ask. But anyway, the other thing that I wanted, we drove her back to Austin, and she was very spirited. I mean, you know her. She had us stopping wherever she wanted to stop and just doing whatever she wanted us to do. She's very influential. She can talk you into doing a lot of things. So, anyway, I'm gonna stop there because as I said,
She ran for city council.
oh, yes.
City of Austin, tell us.
Okay, so she recruited a lot of us as volunteers when she was running for city council. And you'll hear a little bit more, but you'll hear it again later on when we present, when we do our Omega service. But anyway, her darling husband, Pat, he was a great person who followed her passions. So he followed her passion as she was running for councilwoman. She did not win, but I was in the room, and I remember Pat, he whispered to me, he said, well, he was smiling. We were all disappointed because she didn't win. And I was like, Pat, why are you smiling? And he said, because I won. I'm like, what do you mean you won? He said, I get to have my wife back. And I'll tell you more, so you have to stick around. Thank you. I'll tell you more.
Great story. Okay. Now we want to hear from the lawyers. Rudy and Arliss here, I think. You two want them to come forward.
Well, good evening, everyone. As we are nearing the end, we're not at the end, so please stay. But let's just reflect for a moment. To God be the glory.
Amen.
All that has happened so far in this program. Let me just say to the bereaved family, to the immediate family, to all of you who are extended family, and all who have been here with us, and then especially to you, as I think about all that you have done over the years, being a constant in Harriet's life, providing all of the support. And you and I have talked over the years, and I've watched all of this. Anybody would love to have a person like you in their camp. And I know that Harriet treasured and valued, and I think if she were here today, she would say to you, thank you and job well done. All of this, all that we are experiencing tonight and what we will experience tomorrow is just tremendous. I'd also like to say to my Divine Nine sisters, all of you, and I think that the members of Delta Sigma Theta are in here or will be in here. Special blessings to you as well. As your Divine Nine sister, I wear those other colors, pink and green. But I know that Harriet's favorite color, Bill and I talked about this, was red. When I would wear my pink, she'd say, oh, I love that shade of red that you're wearing. That sounds like Harriet. But I wear true red tonight, proudly as a symbol of all that Harriet meant to me. And it's also clear to me, sitting here tonight, that all that has been said and done here this evening and all that we will experience on tomorrow helps me to know that we have gathered here, that we are celebrating not because Harriet died, but because she lived. Amen. And what a wonderful life she lived, impacting so many different people, changing lives, doing this at the local level in the community for our great state of Texas. And then we've heard in so many ways at the national level. I know as I was preparing to leave Washington, D.C. over the week, I received calls from people all over Washington, D.C. and some of the surrounding areas on the East Coast asking me, had you heard about Judge Murphy? When are the services? What can we do? How can we get there? And among them were the National Bar Association, and you heard that mentioned several times. Those of you who are members of the National Bar, you saw the beautiful, beautiful tribute that was sent out. I have a copy here, and I was going to read an excerpt from that, but because of the hour being so late, I won't do that. But the family will receive a copy of that, and we'll find a way to commemorate that and publish that, because the words are so beautiful. There's a reference to some scripture, to the commitments and the contributions that Harriet made. But you all will see a copy of that. I first met Harriet in 1976. She came over to the main campus to speak to a group of us and mentor us as we were preparing and trying to figure out how to perform a pre-law association. Like many of you, when I met Harriet, I instantly fell in love with her. We laughed and we talked, and she said, "Now, I'm not old enough to be your mother, but I am adopting you as my little sister." And that was the kind of relationship that we had on and off from 1976 as I continued to move through the University of Texas, then enter into law school, and then moved on to Washington, D.C. During those times when we would meet with her on campus as pre-law students, we would hear a lot about the injustices that she went through. But at the same time, she inspired us with hope and promise, and she would point out progress that had been made by the collective efforts of multiple generations, and she would talk to us, tell some of the stories that you've heard tonight about those giants, those civil rights giants. We would look at her, and then we would look at ourselves, and then outside of her presence, we knew then that she herself deserved a place in American history as one of those civil rights giants. She also would share her philosophy with us. The first thing that she would say was, get yourself an education and get the best education possible. And make sure that you get it from the highest institution of learning and the best school possible. And then she would say, use that education for service, and that will be a powerful strategy for you to bring about change. Now, we've heard she was involved in all of these high-level intellectual sports activities. Golf, very strategic. Bridge, very strategic. And that was Harriet. She was so strategic without even looking like it and doing everything that she did. Bill and I used to laugh all the time because Harriet was so strategic. She would be able to get everybody to do everything and use their resources to do it. And they wouldn't even know that they were doing it. She was also very skilled, and I think we've talked about this when we talked about her loving to work with youth, but she was also very skilled and trained in teaching, and she felt that that was very, very important. To be able to transfer information and knowledge to the younger generation. She felt that that would be very important in changing hearts and minds, and again, developing that strategy for moving forward. We in the legal community, and I'm very, very honored to be speaking on behalf of lawyers here with you tonight, we're very proud to claim her as a lawyer and as a judge. She loved both her alma mater at the law school and on the main campus. You've already heard she didn't necessarily receive the best treatment as she entered that law school class, being the only African American and one of few women in the entire school. And she tells this story so beautifully in her memoir. We've not talked about that. A beautiful, beautiful book that was published in 2018 by the University of Texas, which details almost every aspect of her activities and her strategies and her challenges and all that she did, ranging from about 1975 up to the present. I would commend that book to all of you and ask you to take a look at it. I think that it gives a roadmap for so many of us for all of the things that we need to be doing. Over the years, I witnessed Harriet giving the very best back to the University of Texas, both at the law school and on the main campus. Although we all know that she didn't necessarily receive the best during her formative years in receiving her education. But I watched the university claim her in so many different ways. First, There is a beautiful, beautiful, huge portrait hanging in the halls of the law school. That portrait was commissioned by the law school, and you'll all see a copy of that portrait in your programs tomorrow if you attend the services. The law school provided for the portrait and as a beautiful showing of the continued affection for Harriet. They worked with Bill this week to provide a number of different resources. We'll talk about that later, Bill, if you want to give any information on that. But I think the law school, and I thank the law school for doing such a wonderful job and working so very diligently to be able to provide for many requests that have been made to them this week. She enjoyed a close relationship and served as an advisor to so many of the law school deans, to include Bill Powers, Ward Farnsworth, and Larry Sager, on sensitive issues confronting the law school, usually issues that had some element of a Supreme Court opinion assigned to them. She never really failed to respond when they asked her to work on these issues and initiatives, all of which ended up in activities and outreach, meetings, and other activities that allowed the law school to be able to move forward in terms of recruiting and maintaining especially minority students. Harriet just saw an opportunity to make a change in almost everything that she did. You've heard stories about that this evening. You'll hear more stories about that. But she always stood up in order to make a difference. She didn't limit that participation just to the law school, but she was everywhere on the main campus as well. That reminds me, I guess, of a story that I think that is appropriate for sharing here. My favorite interaction with her over the years occurred not that long ago. It was probably October, maybe beginning of November. I traveled home here. Harriet would normally have been at that event because she influenced her at the law school. Our current dean about that event, and I'm going to present him to you in a moment. He did something that was very special. I told him that I would go by and visit Harriet after the scholarship award luncheon. I sat next to him at the luncheon and we chatted about Harriet, and he asked how she was doing, and then he gave me a note, a personal note that was handwritten to take to her. The law school also gave me a huge bouquet of flowers to take to her. Harriet loved the yellow roses. She loves the sunflowers. This huge bouquet had burnt orange roses, it had yellow roses, it had sunflowers, and it was just, you know, my children use this word ginormous. It was ginormous, and it was so beautiful. When I got there, Harriet was sitting up, looking Harriet beautiful. We sat and we talked, we chatted. She had me sit the flowers right in front of her so that they would be in her view the entire time. And then I read the note from the dean. It was such a powerful, such a beautiful, beautiful handwritten note. I probably read it about 5 times out loud during the 2 hours or more that I was there with her. Not because she didn't remember what the words said, but because they were so beautiful and she just wanted to hear it again. That was my last meeting with her. I did not know it would be my last meeting. We talked about so many things. She had me tell her word for word, you know, what the dean talked about, what his initiatives were. Luckily, I paid enough attention to where I remembered most of it. Then she wanted to know about the students. She wanted to know who were the students. Where did they come from? What were they planning to do? What were they going to use their law degree to be able to do? And I told her all about that. She was so pleased and so excited. And then she wanted to know a little bit more about the dean. She knew who he was. She knew that there had been a search. She knew that he was a younger dean. She knew that he was involved in things ranging all the way from the community to the national level. She said, this young man sounds like his profile is very similar to mine. We would get along really, really well. She was correct in that. Dean Bobby Chesney is here today, and I'd like to say just a couple more words about him before I ask him to come up, because I think that it is significant and important that you all meet him, that you understand who he is, what he stands for, and he is very busy. In fact, I was a little surprised to see him when I walked in, because I had talked with staff and they said, well, he's got a number of things going on. But he was able to move all of those things. He arrived here before many of us this afternoon. I think that he's been here since about 4:15 or so. The symbolism in moving all of those events so that he could be here to pay tribute to our dear Harriet is very significant. Many of the initiatives that she worked on at the law school were with deans who came before him. He's aware of them, he's committed to them, and he's going to make sure that the legacy of Harriet continues. I would like to introduce you all to I still call him the new dean, although he's 2 years in now. You don't get much time to be that new at the law school, so I know that he's very, very much immersed in everything. But Dean Chesney, we just thank God that you saw fit to be here with us tonight, that you have spent this time with us, and I'd like you to come up and just have a word and say hello to everyone.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you all. I got to tell you, I feel deeply unworthy of these kind of things that were said. I feel unworthy to follow all these incredible speakers. I pray for God to give me the words to try to rise to the occasion. I'm here to represent the love of the university and the school for this incredible person. And to say to you, on behalf of President Hartzell, who couldn't be here, on behalf of the prior presidents who've been mentioned, Greg Fenves, now in Atlanta, Bill Powers, who can't be with us, but can be with her, my predecessors in the deanship, Ward Farnsworth, Larry Sager, Bill. There's a long line of people, and I imagine them all with me, standing here, all to pay respects. This is about that, and I also want to assure you, because I walk past that beautiful portrait every day, and will continue to do so. And our students walk past it, that next generation, the students she was wondering about. And I will make sure they know who the judge was and is, and how the opportunities that they're enjoying, she opened this door, and we're going to keep it open. And it's a challenging time out there, we all know that. She will be the inspiration for continuing to fight and make it ever better. Thank you for giving me the chance to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean, so much for being here. It really does mean so much. I know the law school is so much involved in preparing the program and the obituaries, and we thank you all. We know how much the judge loved the School of Law and how she took the new students under her wing and wanted to make sure that they succeed. And it feels really good to me to hear you say that that portrait of her will continue to hang at the to make sure that I think that's wonderful. And she would like to say that. So from the but I think for those of us who've been involved in politics and things of that have really been tremendous and made an incredible difference all day, every day at the legislature. Not on a particular day when a particular bill is up, but they are there, and I understand they are here to come and represent their sisters. So I would ask the members of Delta Sigma Theta who are going please come forward at this time. Bill, Okay, well, before the ladies and gentlemen, one of the caregivers who meant so much to Judge Murphy, who was with her until the last moment, wants to say something. I think it's wonderful that she does. So if they would please come forward, we greatly appreciate it.
God saw you getting tired, and the cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." With tearful eyes, I watched you fade, only to wake up and see you passed away. Although I loved you dearly, I could not make you stay. Golden heart stopped beating, a single tree that bears so many fruits. Hard-working hands to rest. God broke my heart to prove to me he only takes the best. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peggy Waters, one of Judge Murphy's caretaker. It was August of 2017 when I was introduced to Judge Murphy by Brother Bill Lyons. It was love at first sight. Ever since, we established a mother and daughter relationship. Our love for each other was unconditional. Miss Murphy was not an easy mother to deal with. It was either her way or the highway. Her famous words to me were, "Stay out of my business." I remember she was on a phone call one day. The person on the other end was asking her some personal banking information. She asked me to bring her a checkbook to her. I asked her why. She said the gentleman on the phone is calling from the bank and needs her banking account number and her routing number. I advised her if he was calling from the bank, he should have that information. I told her he is a scammer. Please hang the telephone up. She repeated her favorite words to me, "Stay out of my business." And insisted I give him the information. I took the phone from her and I told him he will not be getting her personal banking information. I then hung the phone up. She was upset with me, but she later understood I had just saved her from losing her entire life savings. Caring for Judge Murphy was fun, but challenging in its own way, because I never know what side of personality will be on display that day. Each day is always something new and different. One thing I learned as I go along is never to take anything she says personally. As she aged and became wheelchair-bound, she always looked forward to playing bridge on Saturdays. She would ensure we don't forget the day, date, and time of her bridge function. She would repeat and rehearse it every day until the day of the function. It was in December I noticed her health became worse. She would stay up 30 minutes and then wanted to go into bed. Each day she would say, "I just want to stay in bed." As her health deteriorates, I paid close attention to her. I was advised by Miss Elaine and Brother Long of my observations. They then called in a hospital nurse who is more trained to deal with her situation. It was on Monday, January 15th, her granddaughter Taja came to see her. She played her favorite songs for her until she fell asleep. Taja then left. On Tuesday, January 16th, as I was dressing her, we both were looking into each other's eyes. I told her, "It seems as if you are leaving me." I then advised her, "I will put on extra makeup on you today because I know you loved your makeup. Should you decide to leave me, you will be looking as beautiful as ever. I know you love your makeup." I then gave her some yogurt, which she rejected. I tried giving her her medication, which she rejected. I advised her nurse upon her arrival of my observation, and then that she had rejected her medication and breakfast. She attended to her and she left. I monitored her during the day and gave her sips of Ensure drink. I gave her some applesauce in the evening. She was groaning due to her pain. I called her nurse and she advised me to give her some pain medication, which I did. I prayed with her and she went to sleep. At midnight, I went to check on her. She was breathing. It was Wednesday, January 17th at 6 a.m. I checked on her. I noticed she was not breathing. I checked her pulse, put my hands on her chest, and I realized she was dead. She was gone. I scream, I sit down, I catch myself. I then call Miss Elaine, Brother Bill, the hospital, 911, and my husband. Judge Murphy, I woke up every morning only to realize that you're really gone. Wherever you are, I hope the skies are bluer. The colors are brighter. The hills are higher. And the world is a kinder place to you. Mom, I will always love you. And your memories will forever live in my heart. May your soul rest in peace. Sleep on, Judge Murphy.
Hello, my name is Judy Little, and I am one of the fill-in caretakers for Miss Murphy. I came on the scene about a year ago, and Miss Murphy was always a joy to work for. I named her Sunshine, and every time I would come, whether it was morning or whether it was in the afternoon, or just stopping by to chit-chat with Peggy for a minute, she always associated it with bath time. She said, "You here to give me a bath?" And I said, "Well, no, I've already given you your bath. I just came by to visit." And she said, "Well, I certainly be looking forward to it." And I said, "Well, Sunshine, I'm going to always come and see about you." And so I learned to love Miss Murphy, and she was always a pleasure and a joy to be around. She always seems to make things better, and you could ask her anything about anything legal, and she was always happy to oblige. I asked her, I said, "Miss Murphy," I said, "can you divorce your kid?" And she says, "Well, I don't know about that, but you can always kick them out." And I said, "Well, they're already out," but I said, "I just wanted to know if there was anything legal that you could do." She said, "No, but you can always kick them out." But Miss Murphy, I'm going to miss you dearly, and it was a pleasure working with you, and I will always have a special place in my heart for you.